Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear me, first of all? Can everybody hear me? Hello, Isabel. Hello, everybody. Yeah, brilliant, great. First of all, I'd like to say massive thank you to everybody for turning up. Great numbers. As some of you have seen, it's actually 4 o'clock in the morning in Mexico, 5 o'clock in Argentina. Thank you so much for all turning up. As somebody has already commented, it's just great to see so many motivated teachers, okay? I was actually lucky enough to be part of the very first Macmillan Online Conference, which was 4 years ago, and it's just amazing to see how this has grown and just got bigger and better. Some great speakers today with Carol and Dorothy, and I think Emma, so I hope you enjoy it. Before I begin then, let me just explain the main aims of this session. Above all, I want to make it clear that, as the slide says there, I am talking about life skills for teenagers. And I think that there is maybe a difference between life skills for teenagers, life skills for primary, which is what Carol Reed will be talking about, and also for adults, young adults. So I'm talking specifically about teenagers. What I'm going to do in this session is give some reasons why I think teaching life skills is important for teenagers. I'll explain what's been happening in the UK and in Europe in terms of teaching life skills for teenagers. And then I'm going to argue really that English is just a great vehicle for teaching life skills. I'll be giving you some practical examples of things that we can do, and you will actually be seeing, for the first time, you'll be seeing some pages from Gateway 2nd edition. But the idea really is to also give you a basic framework that you could then use yourselves with your students to prepare some lessons teaching life skills. Let's begin then. Let's begin with the first slide. This is the typical teenager maybe who's saying, what we learn at school is a waste of time, it has nothing to do with life after school. Can you just very quickly, can you type in yes or no? Do you think that that is true or not true? Yeah, so your son says that, yeah? Lots of people are saying yes and some are saying no. I think this is a complicated question, okay? It's slightly complicated because certainly when I was at school, I think that most of us felt that I'm very old, but when I was at school, certainly the idea was that I don't think we really learnt a lot that was particularly practical for life after school. I think nowadays, I think it depends very much maybe on the subject that you're teaching and that you're studying. I've got a great quotation here from a book. This is a great book that I can recommend. And by the way, at the end of this session, there will be a link to a handout which will have this a little bibliography that you can then explore more about life skills. And also some of the ideas in the session, you can actually find them on that handout at the end. Okay, there will be a link for that handout at the end. But as it says here, so they make the point, this is a book from 2015, this year. If you're not a teacher, when was the last time you needed in your real life to solve a quadratic equation, or recall without recourse to your iPad the capital city of Mongolia, or explain the difference between a terminal and a medial moraine, or a breve and a minim? So I think that maybe if you're teaching some subjects, there are maybe questions there from the students, is this useful? Okay, maybe the good news is I think that maybe English is a little bit different, and I hope that that's true, that English is always going to be useful for our students outside of the school too. But I think it's true there. For example, can anybody name the capital city of Mongolia there without their iPad, just as a matter of interest? What is the capital city of Mongolia? Let's see if anybody knows the answer there. Anybody? No answer so far, okay. Okay, so there is a question, I think, specifically maybe in the 1990s, I think, in the UK, there was a feeling that school was not preparing teenagers for life after school. And so they began a subject which is called PSHE education. Does anybody know what PSHE stands for? Any ideas? It's actually, I'll give you the answers now. P, the P is for personal, the S is for social, the H is for health, and the E is for economic. Economic was added on a little bit later. Okay. Now, the point about this subject was, as it says here, this subject was to help children and young people deal with the real-life issues they face as they grow up. Okay, the issues that PSHE education covers are central to young people's well-being. Okay, now I want you to think for a second. What issues do you think are central to young people's well-being? So what does a teenager in the 21st century, what do they need to know about? Safety online, yeah, I think that's a very, very, very important point. Right, any others? Peer assessment, that might be interesting. Social issues, keeping fit, okay. Anger management, very much so. Health, values, okay, and I think that's very, very true as well, values. Social skills, right, okay. Now, all of these ideas are exactly what the UK identified in the 90s, the start of the 2000s. So the UK identified these areas. So we've got nutrition and physical activity. Obviously, the idea that today teenagers are less fit than before, maybe they eat junk food, maybe they don't get exercise. We've got relationships, which is relationships with family, friends, schoolmates. Emotional health, so we've got things like stress, confidence, safety, we mentioned internet safety, also physical safety, work-related learning, so preparing students for the world of work, and also personal finance, so that maybe students can budget their money. And obviously, at university, suddenly students have to be able to deal with money, plan their spending. Okay. Now, this was in the UK. Meanwhile, in Europe, the European Commission talked about key competences. Okay, key competences. And they describe them as knowledge, skills, and attitudes that will help learners find personal fulfillment and later in life find work and take part in society. Okay. And they identified those things as traditional skills, so two parts, traditional skills such as communication in one's mother tongue, foreign languages, digital skills, literacy, and basic skills in maths and science. Okay. Now, I have underlined foreign languages because obviously for us, I think this is the good news, isn't it? English is a life skill. English is, in the 21st century, a key competence. And I think our students who says that what we learn at school is a waste of time and not useful, I think that's clearly not true today, isn't it, in the world, is that English is something that nearly all of our students will need. So that's great news for us, great English teachers, okay? We're already doing a useful job, okay? That's good to know, if we didn't know it already. Now, the European Commission also identified horizontal skills. Horizontal because they go across the curriculum. So we've got things like learning to learn, social civic responsibility, initiative, entrepreneurship, cultural awareness, and creativity. And again, I think the good news for us there is that we are, as English teachers, we have the perfect medium for including these horizontal skills. Learning to learn, and if you use Gateway, you'll already know we have those study skills. That helps them not only in English, but in all of their subjects, really. If we talk about cultural awareness, how else can we teach cultural awareness rather than teaching a foreign language? As soon as you're teaching a foreign language, I think you're teaching cultural awareness too. And creativity, I would like to think that as English teachers, we are nearly always involving our students with creativity. Yeah, Isabel says as well, critical thinking, and that's definitely a part of this, and part of what we're doing nowadays, I think, also as English teachers. So, I think English is the perfect place to be teaching life skills. How do we do it? Well, we can simply integrate life skills into our reading and our listening. We can use life skills as the spark, if you like, for oral and written work. And the key, as it says there, I think, is that we can use these life skills as content. Now, when I started teaching teenagers a long time ago, when I started writing books a long time ago, books tended to include things like popular culture. So maybe we can be doing texts about One Direction and the last MTV Awards, but really I would say that if we use life skills as the basis for this, then we can actually be teaching, instead of popular culture, we can be teaching something really, really useful for the students in English, but in their daily lives today, tomorrow, and maybe even for the rest of their lives. Okay? Now, the question is then, how do we do that? So what can we actually do in our classroom? Let's have a look straight away then, a practical example. Look at this. It's like a little questionnaire, a little survey, okay? The students have these statements and they have to decide if they are very true for them, that's the VT, very true, quite true, that's the QT, or not true, okay? If you look at those sentences, what life skills do you think we are focusing on? Any ideas? You can see that it's talking about handing in work late, forgetting to hand in homework. Yeah, right, Michelle has got it straight away. Angelica, Ivy, yeah, that is exactly it. It's about time management, okay? And so the title of this questionnaire is, are you a good time manager? Okay, are you a good time manager? Now, if you think for a second, managing your time is important in school, isn't it? Because otherwise you don't arrive on time at class, you don't get your homework in on time. But also, if you look at statement number 8, the problem with time management is that if you don't organize your time well, maybe you never have enough free time, which is going to affect your emotional well-being. So it's not just about school, it's about a whole person, the whole student. The important thing as well is that we're talking about school, but really when students go to university, it becomes even more important, doesn't it? Because a student has to organize without the help of a teacher, maybe without the help of their parents, okay? And after university, it's still important, isn't it? For us as teachers, for me as a writer, if I don't organize my time well, I don't get things on time and I'm in trouble. So the point is that this is something that is useful today, it's something useful tomorrow, and really it's useful for the rest of your life, okay? Now, what we need to do then is to sort of think about how we can manage our time efficiently, and here are some basic ideas. Some of them I think are very obvious, yeah? So don't keep putting things off until later. That's very easy to do, isn't it, for our students? So they're going to do their homework, but then they decide to watch a little bit of television, switch on the computer, and then they never actually get to do their homework. Start small and easy. So the idea is that you've got a big task and you break it into smaller sections. Okay, and there's a beautiful Chinese proverb that I've heard, which is that even the longest journey begins with one small step. And even that, as a life lesson, is a nice little proverb, isn't it? Anything that you've got to do. If you have to write a composition, if you break it down into planning, organizing, paragraphing, drafting, correcting, then that composition, which seems like a mountain to climb, we can make it easier for the students. So what we can do is give the students information, okay? So we're going to teach them about these things. We can give them texts, okay? So give them texts that then will explain why this is important and explain how this is useful for the students. And then what we need to do is give them a life task, so something that then they can actually do in their lives. In this case, they can plan the next couple of weeks with the help that they've received in the text. They can plan the next few weeks, decide what they need to do, working backwards from deadline dates, and basically putting that skill into practice. Okay, so these types of things are the things that maybe are really useful for our students. This is actually 2 pages from Gateway 2nd edition, from the B2 level, okay? And you can see that we've put it all together. We've got our questionnaire, we've got our text, and then we've got our life task, okay? So this is a way that we can go about introducing these ideas into our lessons. The basic framework then would be, if we look back and look forward at that, the basic framework would be selecting something that is useful for our students. And by useful, what I mean is that it's useful for school then, useful for life outside school, useful for university, life, the world of work, today, tomorrow, and the longer term, okay? And so if we look at an area like physical well-being, somebody mentioned this before, Okay, physical well-being. Why not teach our students about choosing healthy food? And you can even simply take food packets, okay, food packets, and look at the nutrition advice there. That's real reading. It's practicing English, and at the same time, it's actually getting the students to learn something and to think about what they're eating. What about designing a fitness program? The World Health Organization says that each teenager should be getting approximately an hour's moderate physical activity every day. Get your students to design a timetable for the week. When do they do sport? When should they do sport? And one thing to bear in mind here also is including other teachers from other subjects. So why not try and get your PE teacher on board too, and maybe you can do lessons combined so that they're really learning something from an expert. What about learning some basics of first aid? Again, what could be more useful than doing things which are concrete to do with their lives? Now, one tip about this is to check for online teaching resources which are free. Because one of the good things about life skills is that many organizations, because they want to help teenagers, then they actually do offer online teaching resources for students that you can go away and use. You might need to simplify that language, but at least the material is there. And so if we look, for example, here are some ideas for websites that you could use. The Red Cross organization in the UK, so that has lots of material for teenagers. The British Heart Foundation, which has material about teenagers looking after their health. And the World Health Organization, which also has information, free information about teenagers organizing their exercise time, what they can be doing to keep fit. So one idea is simply look at that and find free material there. Now another area is the area of preparing food. I'm going to ask you, do you think it's useful for teenagers to learn to prepare food, to cook? Would you say yes or no? And if so, why? Okay, can you give a reason? Give me a concrete reason why it's useful for a teenage student to learn to cook. Independence, absolutely, yes. Any other ideas? I suppose that's the main one maybe, yeah? Let's have a look. What I've got here are some ideas. Quality control. That means, of course, that if you're cooking your own food, you know exactly what is going inside your food. Saving money. So obviously it's going to be cheaper in the long run if you can prepare your own food rather than eating out all the time. So we've got lots of different reasons, okay? Enjoy yourself. Maybe people do actually also enjoy, maybe they do also enjoy cooking for themselves because of the freedom that it gives you. Yeah, learning how not to waste. So, what we've done, we've selected a skill, in this case preparing food. We now need to make sure that the students are motivated to realize why it is useful and how it's useful. Yeah, so you've got cooking lessons in your school, that's excellent. Here's an activity that you can use connected to the idea of preparing food, but any topic, diamond ranking, okay? What happens is you've got different reasons for preparing food, for learning to cook, and the diamond is simply that the students have to put their ideas in order of how important they think they are. So this is great because you can use it with any ranking activity. I'll give you an example here. So for example, this student believes that becoming independent is the most important reason for preparing food. The least important, they think, is saving time. The students think about what for them is the most important, the least important. They can do it individually, then they can of course compare their ideas, but the students are involved personally with the topic and with the task. Then of course, what we can do is, and what we need to do is inform the students. So if we want them to know why it's good to prepare food, then let's give them a text again, some reading, and get them to discover, if they didn't know already, why it can be such a useful idea to actually learn to prepare food. Also, another thing, just so that you know, if you are interested in Gateway 2nd edition, we actually have a series of videos for life skills. And in this case, we have a junior master chef, okay? Yes, that's an amazing coincidence. Junior master chef. So we've got some teenagers who are cooking, and the judges notice that they're doing things which are actually unhealthy, unhygienic, or dangerous. And so the students watch the video, and it makes this really come to life. So the students watch the video and decide what is bad about the way that they're preparing food. So we're looking at preparing food, and we're looking at safety, hygiene in the kitchen. Things which I think maybe you know, are not the obvious things that we can be doing in class, but maybe we should, because again, this is actually helping them in real life. And because it helps them in real life, we can then make sure that the students put the skill into practice. And so we give them a life task. So in this case, why not get them to prepare a salad, okay? Something as simple as a healthy salad. So they have to decide the ingredients, then they have to make sure that the salad is healthy, and they have to think about any safety advice about preparing. In other words, they're doing something which is immensely practical, and that's the idea. That's the idea of the life skill, the life task, making sure the students go out after class, and it actually then will help them to do something not just in the classroom. Yeah, so encourage students to use more than lettuce and tomatoes. Absolutely. I bet you around the world we could make a great salad now, actually, okay? Right, so this is another spread then from Gateway 2nd edition. You can see it's all put together. We've got our personal involvement, we've got our text, we've got our video, and then we have our life task. So we're structuring it, we're making it clear to the students, we're helping them step by step. Okay. I would say that this is probably true, isn't it? That the real object of education is to give children resources that will endure as long as life endures. Okay. Would you agree that this is what we should be doing as teachers? How much would you agree with that? Yeah. You're sold with the idea? Okay, the funny thing is, I think, about teaching is that we tend to think that we are always inventing new things. And I like quotations. This quotation is from a writer called Sidney Smith. And you can see that this is from quite a long time ago. So maybe the idea of teaching life skills is not as new as we actually think, okay? So it's always good to remember that we're following in the footsteps of people who already knew what they were talking about. Okay, right. I'm sort of like coming towards the end, and in fact, what I wanted to do was to make a quick dedication, which I never usually do. Okay, but life skills begin at home. Okay, I'll explain this now, but in fact, I think that the very first person that I taught life skills to was my son, okay? And it just so happens that this is my son's birthday today, okay? He is now actually 20 years old, and so he actually does prepare his own food. He budgets his own money. He lives in a different country from me, so I feel quite proud that I've taught life skills at least to one person in my life, okay? So happy birthday, Jamie, okay? He's probably not watching, but you can tell him that I did dedicate the talk to him. Okay, I was so worried about finishing on time that I think, unfortunately, I've also gone a little bit fast. But the good news is that that means that we've got time for any questions, okay? By the way, just to point out at the bottom of this slide, if you can see here that if anybody doesn't know already, okay, the Facebook page. Is anybody a member of the Gateway Facebook page? If you're not, then please join, because we do have yes, that's the address. Please join, because we usually have teaching tips. It's just a good way of keeping in touch with teachers around the world, such as you guys here on a day like today. It's just a good way of keeping in touch so that we can then share ideas, share comments. Recently, we had a discussion about whether we should correct with a red pen or a green pen or a blue pen or a white pen or whatever. Then lots of different things that we're organizing. There'll be news about Gateway 2nd edition, probably competitions and all the rest. Okay, right, it's over to you guys. Have you got any questions there? Any questions? Anything that you would like to know? I noticed that somebody did ask before about Gateway A1, and you can see here that there will be Gateway A1 Plus, okay? So if anybody needs a lower level, then that will be coming in January 2016. Any comments, anything? Somebody I noticed mentioned about CLIL, okay? And yeah, I think this has a very big crossover with CLIL. I think 21st century, the idea is that we are teaching not only English, and I think I very much believe this is true. We're not just teaching English, we are teaching other things too. So we're teaching anything that is useful for our students. And I think that's our job, isn't it, as educators, not only teaching English, but teaching things through English. So yes, you're right, it has a big crossover point with CLIL. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, well, the correct suitable life skills to teach, I would say find out from your students. Every student has a life skill in Gateway, and what I did, because I'm still in the classroom, I'm still teaching. For example, I'll give you an example. One of my students started to tell me about glass pyramids under the sea, and they told me that it was absolutely true, because they'd seen it on the internet. And I was amazed. This was a very intelligent student, and I used that as inspiration then to think, okay, how do we teach our students to know what is true on the internet and what isn't true? Okay, a big task, but there are things that we can do. You know, that we can chase the sources. So where has this story come from? It's a very famous story. If you look at it on the internet, you'll find lots of pictures and things. The glass pyramid. It's obviously completely untrue, but students, teenage students, don't necessarily know what to believe and what not to believe on the internet. It is a problem, even for us as adults. So, for example, where do you get ideas for life skills? Find out from your students, I think. You know, what do your students need to know? Yeah, life skills videos. Actually, we have some really exciting news about videos, about teaching videos, because I know that a lot of people have liked the videos. I'm not sure if I can tell you. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to tell you, but there will be some videos coming very soon, actually, that you can watch. Yeah, the second edition will be coming out in Mexico, January 2016. Students don't know what they don't know. Yeah, that's true. I suppose that's where we take the reins, yeah, and we teach them what we think is useful. Are they appropriate for adult learners? I think some of them probably are, yes. So I have a look at the material when you can, and I'm sure that a lot of it you could actually use with young adults, I think in particular, because they're still useful. Maybe some are more geared towards younger students, but a lot of them are geared towards university, etc. How did I get my life connected with English teaching? That's a good question. Well, I started as a language learner, so I used to study French and Spanish at university. I love language and I love learning languages, and so I decided that I love teaching languages too. I think we're more or less on time. Resource site suggestions. Really, anything, any NGO, any non-government organization often has material as well. There's a very good source. I think it's called the United Kingdom. It's a website for young people to talk about social issues that interest them. I think it's UKP, the United Kingdom Parliament. So have a look at that. But if you have a look at any sort of things like social issues, health issues, you're bound to find lots of free material, okay? How long did it take me to make this book? I couldn't tell you. It did take blood, sweat and tears though, I can tell you that. Right, okay. Thanks very much for all the thanks, by the way. I'm not sure if I'm meant to hand over to Henry right now. It's been a real pleasure being with all of you people from all over the world. I hope you found it useful, especially if you were getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I would hate you to got up early and waste your time, okay? My son is in the UK. I'm in Spain, but he's in the UK. I'm going to pass you over to Henry because he's got some information about certificates, okay?